Lien adjusted the collar of his sleek, midnight blue jumpsuit, feeling the subtle hum of the temporal stabilizer nestled against his neck. The air around him buzzed with the faint energy of the temporal portal, a swirling vortex of blue and silver that shimmered with the promise of untold possibilities. He took a deep breath, the scent of ozone and anticipation filling his lungs. Before stepping forward into the portal, the transition was smoother than he had ever experienced during his training. Gone were the disorienting flashes and the feeling of being stretched across time and space. Instead, he felt a gentle, almost comforting pull, like being wrapped in a warm blanket as he was whisked away to another moment in history. When the portal finally dissipated, Lien found himself standing on a bustling street in 1943 New York City. The air was thick with the sounds of hurried footsteps, honking cars, and the distant chatter of wartime propaganda. The towering skyscrapers cast long shadows over the crowded sidewalks, where men in military uniforms mingled with women in elegant dresses, all seemingly oblivious to the subtle shifts in time that were about to occur. Lien glanced at his wrist device, confirming his location. It was precisely 3:15 p.m., October 23, 1943, a critical moment he had pinpointed during his extensive research. His mission was clear: prevent the escalation of tensions that would eventually lead to World War II. It seemed straightforward enough, but as he always knew, nothing about time travel was ever simple. He moved swiftly through the crowd, blending in with the throngs of people. His target was a high-ranking military official known for his aggressive strategies and unwavering commitment to expanding the war effort. Lien had identified him as the key figure whose removal could potentially alter the course of history. As he approached the office building where the official worked, Lien couldn't help but feel a pang of doubt. The ethics of time manipulation weighed heavily on his mind. Was it right to interfere so directly with the past, even with the noblest of intentions? He pushed the thoughts aside, reminding himself that the potential benefits far outweighed the risks. Inside the building, the atmosphere was tense. Officers hurried through corridors, and the air was thick with the scent of cigar smoke and ink from freshly printed orders. Lien navigated the maze-like interior with ease, his training allowing him to move undetected. Finally, he reached the office of Colonel Harold Jennings, the man whose actions had set the wheels in motion for the conflict he sought to prevent. Taking a deep breath, Lien activated his temporal disruptor, a device designed to create a temporary anomaly in the local timeline, allowing him to alter Jennings' actions without causing immediate, catastrophic ripple effects. As the device hummed to life, a subtle distortion in the air signaled that his intervention was about to begin. He burst into Jennings' office, the sudden intrusion causing a brief moment of confusion. The colonel looked up, his stern expression faltering as he took in the unexpected visitor. Lien didn't hesitate, swiftly moving to confront him. "Colonel Jennings," he began, his voice steady but urgent. "You need to stop this war. It's only going to bring more pain and suffering." Jennings' eyes narrowed, suspicion evident in his gaze. "Who are you, and what is the meaning of this?" he demanded, his hand instinctively reaching for his sidearm. Lien raised his hands in a gesture of peace. "I'm someone who understands the consequences of your actions. Please, reconsider. There has to be another way." For a moment, the room was silent, the weight of Lien's words hanging heavy in the air. Then, without warning, Jennings lunged forward, grabbing Lien's wrist and wrenching him back. The temporal disruptor skittered across the floor, deactivated in the struggle. Lien tried to break free, but Jennings' grip was like iron. "You don't understand the bigger picture," the colonel snarled. "This war is necessary. Sacrifices must be made for the greater good." Desperation surged through Lien as he realized the severity of the situation. Without the disruptor, he couldn't force Jennings to change his course willingly. He needed another plan, and fast. As the two men grappled, the room began to shimmer with the faint light of temporal energy. Lien knew that the Time Watchers, those enigmatic guardians of the timeline, were already aware of his interference. Their presence was imminent, and he had little time left to make a difference. With a surge of adrenaline, Lien managed to slip free from Jennings' grasp, darting towards the window. Without hesitation, He leapt, grabbing onto the ledge and pulling himself up just as the temporal stabilizer in his jumpsuit activated, propelling him back towards the portal. He tumbled through the swirling vortex, the sounds of the city fading into the distance as he was hurled back to his own time. When the portal finally closed, Lien found himself back in the temporal agency's headquarters, the familiar surroundings a stark contrast to the chaos he had just experienced. Breathing heavily, he looked around, trying to piece together what had just happened. He had failed to change the course of history, and now the Time Watchers were undoubtedly aware of his attempt. The implications were clear. Any interference with key historical events was met with immediate and decisive action to restore the original timeline. As he made his way to the debriefing room, Lien couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. The Time Watchers were more than just passive observers, they were active participants in maintaining the delicate balance of history. Their methods were precise, their interventions almost invisible, yet their presence was a constant reminder of the limits imposed on time travelers. The debriefing room was a stark, sterile space, filled with holographic displays and the stern faces of agency officials. Lien took a seat, his mind racing with thoughts of what he had witnessed and the undeniable failure of his mission. "Report," the lead official demanded, his voice devoid of emotion. Lien took a deep breath, recounting his attempt to prevent the escalation of war by targeting Colonel Jennings. He detailed the confrontation, the temporary disruption he had caused, and the subsequent appearance of the Time Watchers who had swiftly restored the timeline. The official listened intently, his expression unreadable. When Lien finished, there was a moment of tense silence before the official spoke. "Your actions, while well-intentioned, have consequences that extend beyond your understanding," he said. "The timeline is a fragile construct, and even minor alterations can have unforeseen repercussions. The Time Watchers are here to ensure that history remains on its predetermined path." Lien frowned, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. But what if the path leads to unimaginable suffering? Isn't there a way to prevent that without causing more harm? The official leaned forward, his gaze piercing. "Humanity's history is a tapestry woven with countless threads. Pulling on one strand can unravel the entire fabric. The Time Watchers exist to preserve that integrity, to prevent chaos from seeping into the timeline. Your interference, though motivated by a desire to help, only serves to destabilize the future." Lien's shoulders slumped, the weight of his failure pressing down on him. He had believed that he could change history for the better, but instead, he had only hastened the arrival of the Time Watchers and solidified their control over time travel. "There's more," the official continued, his tone softening slightly. "We believe that history possesses an inherent self-repair mechanism. Attempts to alter key events are met with corrective measures to maintain the balance. Your mission, and those like it, were designed to be nearly impossible to succeed." Lien looked down, the truth of the situation sinking in. The Time Watchers weren't just passive observers, they were an active force ensuring that history remained unchanged, regardless of the intentions behind the interference. "So, what now?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The official stood, signaling the end of the debriefing. "You will be placed under observation. Any further attempts to alter the timeline will result in immediate intervention. Your role is to understand and respect the boundaries set by the Time Watchers." As Lien was escorted out of the room, he couldn't help but feel a growing sense of rebellion. The idea that humanity had willingly created such a restrictive system was both fascinating and terrifying. Who were these Time Watchers, and what secrets did they hold? More importantly, why had no one else dared to challenge their authority? Days turned into weeks, and Lien found himself grappling with the limitations imposed upon him. His passion for history and his desire to make a meaningful impact were stifled by the realization that his every action was monitored and controlled. He began to question the very foundation of the temporal agency, wondering if there was more to the Time Watchers than met the eye. One evening, as he sat alone in his apartment, Lien pored over historical records, searching for any anomalies or inconsistencies that might hint at the true nature of the Time Watchers. His research led him to a series of obscure documents detailing the formation of the Time Watchers, an organization shrouded in secrecy, established by an anonymous group of scientists and historians with the sole purpose of safeguarding the timeline. The more he delved into the archives, the more he became convinced that the Time Watchers were not just a defensive measure but a proactive force, shaping history to fit a predetermined narrative. The idea that humanity had, in its quest for survival, created a system that prioritized historical integrity over individual freedom was both brilliant and deeply unsettling. Determined to uncover the truth, Lien began to devise a new plan. If direct interference was impossible, perhaps there was another way to influence events without triggering the Time Watchers' corrective measures. He considered the possibility of subtle changes, minor adjustments that could steer history without attracting attention. However, he knew that even the slightest deviation could have unintended consequences. As he pondered his options, a breakthrough came in the form of a forgotten experiment, a theoretical framework suggesting that certain individuals possessed the innate ability to influence the timeline without direct intervention. These chrono-weavers, as the documents referred to them, were believed to have a unique connection to the fabric of time, allowing them to guide events subtly and harmoniously. Excited by the prospect, Lien dedicated himself to exploring this concept. He immersed himself in studies of quantum mechanics, temporal dynamics, and historical patterns, seeking to understand how chrono-weavers could exist and how he might harness such abilities. The more he learned, the more he realized that if such individuals did exist, they could be the key to achieving meaningful change without disrupting the timeline. His research led him to ancient texts and forgotten manuscripts, hinting at the existence of similar beings throughout history, individuals who had seemingly guided events from behind the scenes, ensuring that the course of history remained on track while subtly nudging it towards a better future. These stories, though often dismissed as myths, resonated with Lien, reinforcing his belief that there was a way to effect change without causing chaos. Determined to test his theory, Lien began to practice mindfulness and visualization techniques, attempting to attune himself to the subtle energies of time. He meditated for hours each day, focusing on his intention to guide history gently and without force. The process was exhausting, but he felt a sense of purpose that kept him going. Months passed, and Lien's efforts began to bear fruit. He started to notice small shifts in his perception, an enhanced awareness of historical events and their interconnectedness. He felt a deep connection to the past, as if he could sense the ebb and flow of time itself. Encouraged by these developments, he decided to attempt a controlled intervention, a minor event that, if successful, could pave the way for more significant changes. His target was a seemingly insignificant incident, the accidental drowning of a young boy in 1952 Chicago. While tragic, it was a minor event in the grand scheme of history, unlikely to trigger the Time Watchers' intervention. However, Lien believed that by saving this boy, he could begin to refine his abilities and understand the true extent of his influence over time. He activated his temporal stabilizer, focusing his mind on the specific moment in 1952. The portal opened with its usual hum, and Lien stepped through, feeling the familiar pull of the temporal currents. He found himself on a quiet street in Chicago, the summer heat palpable in the air. The scene was serene, children playing in the streets, families enjoying the pleasant afternoon. Lien quickly located the spot where the accident was set to occur, a small pond in a local park. He watched as a young boy approached the water's edge, oblivious to the danger lurking beneath the surface. Without hesitation, Lien intervened, pulling the boy to safety just as the moment of tragedy was about to unfold. As he returned to his own time, Lien felt a surge of satisfaction. The intervention had been successful, and the timeline remained stable. He knew that this was just the beginning, but it was a promising start. Encouraged by his success, he began to plan more interventions, each one carefully selected to avoid major disruptions while still making a positive impact. However, with each successful intervention, Lien couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Subtle changes in his environment hinted at the presence of the Time Watchers, their silent oversight a constant reminder of the delicate balance he was attempting to maintain. He knew that he had to proceed with caution, ensuring that his actions remained undetectable to the vigilant guardians of history. One evening, as he prepared for another mission, Lien received an unexpected message, a secure communication from an unknown source. The message was brief but cryptic: "Meet me at the old library. We need to talk about the Time Watchers." Intrigued and cautious, Lien decided to follow the instructions. The old library was a relic from the past, its grand architecture a testament to a bygone era. As he approached, he noticed a figure waiting near the entrance, cloaked in shadows. "Are you the one they call a chrono-weaver?" the figure asked, stepping into the light to reveal a middle-aged woman with piercing green eyes and an air of quiet authority. Lien nodded, sensing that this encounter was significant. "I am." "Who are you?" The woman smiled faintly. "My name is Dr. Evelyn Hartman. I've been studying the Time Watchers for years, trying to understand their true purpose. It seems we've both come to realize that there's more to their role than mere guardians of the timeline." Lien felt a surge of hope. Perhaps he wasn't alone in his quest to subtly influence history for the better. "What do you know about them?" Dr. Hartman gestured for him to sit. The Time Watchers were established as a failsafe, a way to prevent humanity from tearing itself apart through reckless time manipulation. But over the decades, their role has evolved. They've become more than just protectors, they're active participants in shaping history to fit a specific narrative, one that ensures human survival at all costs. Lien listened intently, the pieces of the puzzle beginning to fit together. "So, they're not just preserving history, they're directing it?" "Exactly," Evelyn confirmed. "They believe that by maintaining a certain course, they can prevent humanity's self-destruction. But this means they also suppress any attempts to make genuine, positive changes that don't align with their predetermined path." Lien frowned, the implications troubling him. "So, if I try to make changes, they're going to stop me?" Evelyn nodded. "That's their primary function. But I've discovered something, a way to work with the Chrono Weavers, to find a balance between your interventions and their need to preserve the timeline. It's not easy, and it requires a deep understanding of temporal dynamics, but it's possible." A flicker of hope ignited within Lien. "How can we do that?" Evelyn reached into her bag and produced a small, intricately designed device. "This is a temporal harmonizer. It allows us to synchronize our interventions with the timeline's natural flow, minimizing disruptions and making our actions less detectable to the Time Watchers. With it, we can collaborate, ensuring that our changes lead to a more stable and prosperous future without triggering their corrective measures." Lien took the device, marveling at its craftsmanship. This could be the key to making meaningful changes without causing chaos. "Indeed," Evelyn agreed. "But we must proceed carefully. The Time Watchers are always watching, and any misstep could have dire consequences. Are you willing to take that risk?" Lien nodded resolutely. "If it means making a real difference, then I'm in." With their partnership forged, Lien and Evelyn began to plan their interventions meticulously. They targeted minor yet impactful events, carefully selecting moments where their actions could ripple outwards without causing significant disruptions. Each mission required precision and a deep understanding of the intricate web of history, but with the temporal harmonizer, their chances of success improved. Their first joint mission was to prevent a minor economic collapse that had led to widespread unemployment and social unrest in 1962. Using the harmonizer, they subtly influenced key decisions, ensuring that economic policies were adjusted to prevent the downturn without drawing the attention of the Time Watchers. As they continued their work, Lien felt a growing sense of purpose. For the first time, he believed that true, positive change was possible without falling prey to the unintended consequences of his actions. Evelyn's expertise complemented his own, and together, they navigated the complexities of time with a newfound synergy. However, their success did not go unnoticed. The Time Watchers, ever vigilant, began to sense the subtle shifts in the timeline. Unexplained anomalies and temporal distortions hinted at the presence of external influences, prompting the Time Watchers to investigate. One evening, as Lien and Evelyn prepared for another mission, an alert sounded throughout the temporal agency's headquarters. The holographic displays flickered to life, showing disturbances in various timelines. The lead official's voice echoed through the room, cold and authoritative. "Attention, all personnel. Unauthorized temporal interventions have been detected. Initiate containment protocols immediately." Panic ensued as agents scrambled to respond to the disturbances. Lien and Evelyn exchanged worried glances, realizing that their actions had finally attracted the Time Watcher's attention. "We need to act quickly," Evelyn whispered, her eyes scanning the rapidly changing displays. "If the Time Watchers are on to us, they'll soon discover our activities." Lien nodded, his mind racing. "We have to find a way to cover our tracks and continue our work without triggering their full-scale intervention." As they worked feverishly to stabilize the affected timelines, the presence of the Time Watchers became more palpable. Shadowy figures moved through the agency, their movements precise and calculated, as they sought to identify and neutralize the source of the disruptions. Lien and Evelyn knew that they had to stay one step ahead. They devised a plan to create a series of decoy interventions, designed to mislead the Time Watchers and draw their attention away from their true activities. It was a risky maneuver, but with the stakes higher than ever, they had no choice. The plan required them to synchronize their actions with multiple points in history simultaneously, creating a complex web of interventions that would confuse the Time Watchers' monitoring systems. It was a delicate dance, one that demanded flawless execution and unwavering focus. As the night wore on, Lien and Evelyn worked tirelessly, their partnership strengthened by the shared urgency of their mission. The temporal harmonizer hummed with energy, its intricate mechanisms working in tandem with their synchronized efforts to alter the course of history without triggering catastrophic disruptions. Finally, after hours of intense effort, the last of the decoy interventions was successfully implemented. The disturbances in the timelines began to stabilize, the anomalies dissipating as the Time Watchers struggled to make sense of the conflicting data. Exhausted but triumphant, Lien and Evelyn took a moment to catch their breath. They had managed to evade the Time Watchers' detection, for now. However, the encounter had served as a stark reminder of the formidable challenges they faced. "We need to be more careful," Evelyn cautioned, her eyes reflecting the gravity of their situation. "The Time Watchers won't take this lightly. They'll come after us with everything they have." Lien nodded, the weight of their actions pressing down on him. "I know. But we can't stop now. There are too many lives at stake." As dawn broke over the city, Lien and Evelyn made a solemn vow to continue their work, determined to find a way to guide history towards a better future without falling victim to the Time Watchers' corrective measures. Their journey was far from over, and the path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but their resolve remained unshaken. In the days that followed, their interventions became more refined, their understanding of the temporal harmonizer deepening with each mission. They began to uncover hidden patterns in history, recognizing the subtle threads that connected seemingly disparate events. This newfound insight allowed them to anticipate the Time Watchers' moves, staying one step ahead in their quest to make a positive impact. However, the constant vigilance took its toll. Lien found himself increasingly isolated, his nights spent poring over historical records and his days filled with clandestine operations. The burden of his dual existence weighed heavily on him, straining his relationships and testing his resolve. One evening, as he sat alone in his apartment, Lien received an unexpected visitor, a member of the Time Watchers, his presence both intimidating and enigmatic. The man introduced himself as Agent Marcus Hale, a high-ranking official within the organization tasked with maintaining the integrity of the timeline. "Mr. Lien," Hale began, his voice calm yet authoritative. "We need to talk." Lien's heart raced, the implications of a direct confrontation with a Time Watcher both thrilling and terrifying. "What do you want?" Hale took a seat across from him, his piercing gaze unwavering. "We've been monitoring your activities, Mr. Lien. Your interventions have not gone unnoticed, and your recent efforts to collaborate with Dr. Hartman have raised significant concerns within our ranks." Lien met Hale's gaze, refusing to show any sign of fear. "I don't understand. We're just trying to make positive changes without causing chaos." Hale shook his head slowly. "Your intentions may be noble, but the methods you employ are fundamentally flawed. History is not a game to be manipulated based on individual desires. The Time Watchers exist to preserve the delicate balance of the timeline, ensuring that humanity's path remains stable and sustainable." Lien leaned forward, his frustration evident. "But what if the timeline as it stands leads to unnecessary suffering? Shouldn't we have the agency to prevent that?" Hale sighed, a hint of sorrow in his expression. "Humanity's history is a complex tapestry, woven with countless threads that intertwine in ways we may not fully comprehend. While you seek to prevent suffering, your actions can inadvertently create greater turmoil. The timeline has its own self-regulating mechanisms, and interfering with them disrupts the natural flow of events." Lien's frustration deepened. "But we're seeing firsthand that these mechanisms aren't infallible. Every attempt to change key events results in greater instability. Isn't there a better way to guide history towards a more positive outcome?" Hale's eyes softened slightly. "We are aware of the challenges and imperfections within the timeline. That's why the Time Watchers continually monitor and adjust, striving to maintain equilibrium. Your interventions, though well-meaning, introduce variables that complicate our efforts to sustain stability." Lien paused, considering Hale's words. "So, what happens now? Will you stop us?" Hale met his gaze steadily. "Our goal is not to eradicate those who seek to help, but to ensure that their actions do not compromise the timeline's integrity. We can offer you a choice: cease your interventions and return to your duties within the agency, or continue on your current path and face the consequences of your actions." Lien felt a surge of determination. "I can't stand by and watch history unfold in a way that causes preventable suffering. There has to be a way to make meaningful changes without destabilizing the timeline." Hale shook his head gently. "I admire your passion, Mr. Lien, but your approach is incompatible with our mission. The timeline must remain consistent, and any attempts to alter it, regardless of intent, pose significant risks. We urge you to reconsider and align your efforts with the guidelines set forth by the Time Watchers." As the conversation concluded, Lien realized that the Time Watchers were not merely passive observers but active enforcers of a rigid temporal order. Their perspective was deeply ingrained in the belief that maintaining stability was paramount, even if it meant suppressing individual desires for change. Determined not to be deterred, Lien resolved to find a way to bridge the gap between his vision and the Time Watchers' mission. He knew that collaboration was key, but gaining their trust would be a formidable challenge. Returning to his apartment, Lien contacted Evelyn, sharing the encounter with Agent Hale. Together, they brainstormed strategies to demonstrate the potential of their interventions while minimizing disruptions to the timeline. They understood that earning the Time Watchers' trust would require undeniable proof of their ability to create positive change without triggering instability. Their opportunity came sooner than expected. A natural disaster of unprecedented magnitude was forecasted to strike a small coastal town in 1975, resulting in widespread devastation and loss of life. The Time Watchers had deemed this event a critical point in the timeline, one that must be preserved to ensure future resilience and technological advancements. However, Lien and Evelyn saw an alternative approach. Instead of merely mitigating the disaster, they aimed to implement sustainable infrastructure improvements that would not only prevent the immediate catastrophe but also foster long-term community resilience. This dual-purpose intervention had the potential to align with both their goals and the Time Watchers' mission of maintaining stability. They activated the temporal harmonizer, focusing their efforts on the specific moment in 1975. Arriving in the past, they discreetly collaborated with local engineers and planners, introducing innovative designs and materials that would enhance the town's defenses against future disasters. Their actions were subtle yet impactful, ensuring that the timeline remained intact while facilitating meaningful improvements. Returning to their own time, Lien and Evelyn anxiously awaited the outcome of their intervention. Weeks later, reports confirmed that the coastal town had indeed avoided the predicted disaster, thriving instead as a model of sustainable development and community resilience. The successful outcome provided tangible evidence of their ability to effect positive change without destabilizing the timeline. Emboldened by their success, Lien decided it was time to reach out to the Time Watchers once more. Armed with undeniable proof of their capabilities, he hoped to initiate a dialogue that could lead to collaboration rather than confrontation. He arranged another meeting with Agent Hale, this time presenting the results of their intervention in 1975. Hale listened intently, his expression inscrutable as he reviewed the data. "Impressive," he admitted after a moment. "Your actions in 1975 have had a stabilizing effect, contrary to our initial assessment. It's clear that your approach has merit." Lien seized the opportunity. "If we can work together, we can identify key moments where our interventions can align with the timeline's natural flow, enhancing stability and fostering positive outcomes without causing disruptions." Hale considered his proposal carefully. Collaboration would require stringent oversight and adherence to established protocols. "We cannot guarantee that every intervention will yield the desired results, but your willingness to work within our framework is a promising start." Evelyn, who had accompanied Lien to the meeting, added, "Our goal is not to undermine the Time Watchers but to complement their efforts. Together, we can ensure that history progresses in a way that benefits humanity without compromising its integrity." After a tense deliberation, Hale nodded. "Very well. We will initiate a trial partnership, carefully selecting interventions that align with both our objectives. However, any deviation from agreed-upon protocols will result in immediate termination of our collaboration." Lien and Evelyn agreed, understanding the gravity of the opportunity before them. Their partnership with the Time Watchers marked a new chapter in their mission, one that held the promise of meaningful change tempered by the necessity of maintaining temporal stability. As they embarked on this collaborative journey, Lien couldn't help but reflect on the delicate balance between freedom and control, between individual agency and the greater good. The Time Watchers, once seen as antagonists, were now potential allies in their quest to guide history towards a more prosperous and harmonious future. Their first joint mission was a resounding success, further solidifying the trust between them and the Time Watchers. Together, they navigated the complexities of temporal interventions, each step forward a testament to the power of collaboration and the potential for positive change within the constraints of time's intricate tapestry. Yet, as they delved deeper into their work, Lien remained acutely aware of the ever-present challenges. The line between preserving stability and fostering progress was razor-thin, and the consequences of missteps loomed large. Nevertheless, with Evelyn by his side and the Time Watchers' cautious support, he felt a renewed sense of purpose, driven by the belief that history's threads could be woven into a brighter, more resilient future. Lien felt a mixture of relief and trepidation as he and Evelyn left the meeting with Agent Hale. The weight of their new alliance settled on his shoulders, but the flicker of hope in their eyes was undeniable. They had taken the first step toward bridging the gap between their desire to effect positive change and the Time Watchers' mission to preserve temporal stability. Their first joint mission under the new partnership was scheduled for the following week. Lien spent the days leading up to it immersed in research, identifying key moments where subtle interventions could yield significant benefits without causing major disruptions. Evelyn, with her extensive knowledge of historical patterns and temporal dynamics, collaborated closely with him, ensuring their actions would align with both their goals and the Time Watchers' protocols. The mission was set in 1985, a pivotal year in the technological boom that shaped the modern world. A promising young inventor, Dr. Samuel Carter, was on the verge of creating a breakthrough in renewable energy. However, corporate espionage threatened to derail his work, leading to his eventual downfall and the loss of a potential game-changer in sustainable technology. The Time Watchers had identified this event as a minor yet impactful disruption, one that could have long-term benefits if handled correctly. Lien and Evelyn knew that intervening to protect Dr. Carter's work could accelerate advancements in renewable energy, potentially averting future environmental crises. They activated the temporal harmonizer, feeling the familiar pull as the portal opened before them. Stepping through, they found themselves in a modest laboratory cluttered with prototypes and blueprints. Dr. Carter was hunched over his latest invention, a device that could harness energy from ambient sources with unprecedented efficiency. Approaching cautiously, they observed the young inventor interacting with his assistant, discussing the intricacies of their project. The room was filled with the hum of machinery and the scent of solder and paper. Lien identified the moment when a rival corporation's agent was about to make a move that would compromise Carter's work. They had to act swiftly and subtly, ensuring their presence went unnoticed by the historical record. Evelyn took the lead, engaging Dr. Carter in a discussion about his project's potential and the importance of safeguarding his research. Meanwhile, Lien discreetly altered a few key documents and communicated anonymously with the assistant, providing critical information that would help Carter anticipate and thwart the corporate espionage. Their actions were precise, leaving no trace of their intervention beyond the subtle enhancements that would ensure the success of Carter's work. As they prepared to return to their own time, Lien felt a surge of optimism. This mission had gone smoothly, and the timeline remained intact. They had managed to protect a pivotal figure without causing any major disruptions, a testament to the effectiveness of their collaboration with the Time Watchers. Back at the Temporal Agency's headquarters, they received confirmation that their intervention had been successful. Dr. Carter's work continued to flourish, leading to advancements in renewable energy that significantly reduced humanity's reliance on fossil fuels. The positive ripple effects were evident, with cleaner environments and more sustainable practices becoming the norm in the decades that followed. Buoyed by their success, Lien and Evelyn embarked on a series of missions, each carefully chosen to maximize positive outcomes while minimizing risks. They prevented small-scale disasters, ensured critical scientific breakthroughs occurred on schedule, and subtly influenced political decisions to foster more peaceful and equitable societies. Each mission deepened their understanding of the delicate balance they were maintaining, and their bond grew stronger as they navigated the complexities of time together. However, their growing effectiveness did not go unnoticed by the higher echelons of the Time Watchers. Agent Hale, observing their progress, began to scrutinize their actions more closely. While their interventions aligned with the overarching mission, Hale remained cautious, aware that even minor deviations could have unforeseen consequences. He decided it was time to assess their long-term potential and the implications of their partnership. One evening, as Lien and Evelyn reviewed the outcomes of their latest mission, a secure communication appeared on their devices. It was an invitation to a private meeting with Agent Hale, signaling that their efforts had garnered enough attention to warrant a more in-depth evaluation. Arriving at the designated location, a secluded wing of the Temporal Agency, they were ushered into a dimly lit conference room. Hale stood at the head of the table, his demeanor composed yet authoritative. Lien and Evelyn took their seats, the tension in the room palpable. "Hale," Evelyn began, her tone respectful. "We've noticed your increased oversight. Is there something you need to discuss?" Hale nodded, leaning forward. "Your recent missions have been successful. You've managed to influence events in ways that align with our objectives without causing significant disruptions. This is commendable." Lien exchanged a glance with Evelyn, a hint of pride in his eyes. "We're committed to making meaningful changes while respecting the integrity of the timeline." Hale's expression remained neutral. "That's precisely why we requested this meeting. While your actions have so far been beneficial, there are inherent risks in allowing individual chronoweavers the autonomy you've been granted. The timeline is a complex system, and even the most well-intentioned interventions can have unpredictable outcomes." Evelyn leaned forward, her eyes meeting Hale's. "We understand the risks, but we've developed protocols to minimize disruptions. Our use of the temporal harmonizer has been instrumental in this regard." Hale regarded her thoughtfully. The temporal harmonizer is indeed a powerful tool. However, it also introduces variables that can complicate our monitoring efforts. We need to ensure that your missions continue to align with the Time Watchers' broader objectives. This requires a more structured approach. Lien frowned slightly. What do you propose? Hale took a deep breath, choosing his words carefully. We're considering formalizing your partnership with the Time Watchers. This would involve more direct oversight and collaboration, ensuring that your interventions are integrated into our comprehensive understanding of the timeline. In return, you'd gain access to our resources and intelligence, enhancing your ability to make informed decisions. Evelyn raised an eyebrow. Formal oversight could limit our flexibility. Part of what makes our mission successful is our ability to act independently and swiftly. Hale nodded. I understand your concerns. However, without coordination, even minor actions could have cascading effects that undermine our collective efforts. By working within a structured framework, we can optimize the impact of your interventions while maintaining temporal stability. Lien considered the proposition. It's a significant shift, but it could enhance our effectiveness. What would this formal partnership entail? Hale outlined the terms: regular briefings, access to Time Watchers' historical data and predictive models, and a clear delineation of missions to ensure alignment with their objectives. In return, Lien and Evelyn would receive support in the form of advanced technology, enhanced training, and a more systematic approach to their interventions. After a moment of contemplation, Lien nodded. We're willing to consider it. As long as we retain some degree of autonomy to act when necessary, this partnership could amplify our ability to create positive change. Evelyn added, and we'd ensure that our actions remain as seamless and unobtrusive as possible, maintaining the integrity of the timeline. Hale smiled faintly. Then it's settled. We'll begin the integration process immediately. Welcome to a more formal collaboration with the Time Watchers. As they left the meeting, Lien and Evelyn felt a sense of accomplishment tempered by the realization that their journey was evolving. The formal partnership promised greater resources and support, but it also meant adapting to new protocols and working more closely with the very organization they had once seen as restrictive. Their next mission under the formal collaboration was to address an economic downturn in 1990 that had led to widespread unemployment and social unrest. The Time Watchers had identified this event as a critical juncture that required careful handling to prevent long-term instability. With access to comprehensive data and predictive models, Lien and Evelyn were able to craft a strategy that not only mitigated the immediate crisis but also laid the groundwork for sustainable economic growth in the decades that followed. As they executed the mission, they encountered unexpected challenges. Political factions resistant to change, unforeseen technological setbacks, and the ever-present threat of attracting the Time Watchers' scrutiny required them to adapt and refine their approach continually. Each obstacle they overcame reinforced their belief in the importance of their work and the necessity of their partnership with the Time Watchers. Months turned into years, and their interventions became increasingly sophisticated. They tackled issues ranging from environmental disasters to pivotal scientific discoveries, always striving to create a balance between progress and stability. The formal collaboration allowed them to anticipate potential disruptions and plan their actions with greater precision, reducing the likelihood of unintended consequences. However, the more they worked within the Time Watchers' framework, the more they began to uncover the organization's deeper motivations and the true extent of their control over the timeline. Late-night research sessions and covert inquiries revealed that the Time Watchers' interventions were not solely about maintaining stability. There were patterns of selective influence that suggested a hidden agenda aimed at steering humanity towards a specific future. Lien's curiosity and Evelyn's analytical mind led them to delve into the agency's classified archives, uncovering evidence of clandestine operations and secret missions that had shaped historical events in ways that benefited a select few. The realization that the Time Watchers might be manipulating the timeline for their own purposes shook their faith in the organization. They began to question whether their partnership was truly aligned with the greater good or if they were unwittingly becoming pawns in a larger, more sinister plan. One evening, as they sifted through encrypted files in a hidden section of the archives, Lien stumbled upon a series of documents detailing the Time Watchers' long-term objectives. The language was cryptic, filled with references to temporal optimization and human evolution, but the underlying message was clear. The organization sought to guide humanity towards a predetermined destiny, ensuring their survival and dominance in the universe. Evelyn frowned, her eyes scanning the lines of text. This doesn't just talk about maintaining stability. It's about directing the course of human development to fit a specific model. Lien nodded, his mind racing. If that's the case, then our missions might not be as altruistic as we thought. We could be contributing to a controlled evolution, suppressing free will in the process. The implications were staggering. They had entered into a partnership believing they were working towards a harmonious future, only to discover that the Time Watchers might have their own hidden agenda. The lines between protector and manipulator blurred, leaving Lien and Evelyn grappling with a profound moral dilemma. "We need to confront Hale about this," Lien said, his voice tinged with determination. "If the Time Watchers are manipulating history for their own ends, we have to take a stand." Evelyn hesitated, the weight of their discovery pressing down on her. "It's risky. Hale is a high-ranking official, and challenging his authority could put us in direct conflict with the entire organization." Lien placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We've come this far together. If we don't act now, who will? We have the knowledge and the means to make a difference, but only if we do so with integrity." After much deliberation, they decided to confront Hale with their findings. Arranging a private meeting, they presented the evidence they had uncovered, their voices steady despite the gravity of the situation. Hale listened in silence, his expression unreadable as he reviewed the documents. When he finished, there was a moment of tense silence before he spoke. "You've done well to uncover this information," Hale began, his tone measured. "The Time Watchers have always operated with a level of discretion to ensure the success of our mission. The documents you found are part of our long-term strategy to guide humanity towards a sustainable and prosperous future." Evelyn stepped forward, her eyes blazing with determination. "Guiding is one thing, Hale, but manipulating is another. We were led to believe we were partners in maintaining temporal stability, not tools in your quest for control." Hale sighed, a hint of frustration in his demeanor. "The timeline is not a simple construct. It requires careful management to prevent catastrophic events that could end humanity. Our interventions are designed to optimize the chances of survival and progress." Lien interjected, his voice firm. "Optimizing shouldn't mean stripping away free will or dictating humanity's path. We believe in the potential for genuine, grassroots change, not a top-down approach that undermines individual agency." Hale regarded them thoughtfully. "Your perspective is valid, but you must understand the stakes involved. Without our guidance, humanity might not survive the challenges that lie ahead. We've seen the consequences of unchecked time manipulation, disorder, chaos, and ultimately, extinction." Evelyn shook her head. "There has to be a balance. We can collaborate without losing our autonomy or compromising our values. There's room for both structured oversight and individual initiative." Hale considered her words, the tension in the room thickening. "Perhaps there is merit in your approach. However, the Time Watchers have been operating under the assumption that a centralized control system is the most effective means of ensuring survival. Changing this paradigm requires careful consideration and consensus." Lien leaned forward, his determination unwavering. "We're not asking to dismantle your organization, Hale. We're asking for a partnership based on mutual respect and shared goals. Let us help you, and let us work together to create a future that honors both stability and freedom." Hale studied them for a long moment, the silence stretching between them. Finally, he nodded slowly. "Your passion and commitment are evident. Perhaps it is time to reevaluate our methods and consider a more collaborative approach. I will take your concerns to the Council and advocate for a restructuring of our partnership protocols." With that, the meeting concluded, leaving Lien and Evelyn with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. They had made a bold stand against the established order of the Time Watchers, challenging the very foundations of their mission. The outcome was uncertain, but their resolve to uphold their principles remained steadfast. In the weeks that followed, tensions within the temporal agency grew as Hale advocated for a new framework of collaboration. Debates raged among the Time Watchers' leadership, with some members supporting the traditional methods of centralized control, while others, inspired by Hale's arguments and the undeniable success of Lien and Evelyn's missions, began to see the value in a more flexible, partnership-based approach. Amidst the turmoil, Lien and Evelyn continued their work, balancing their duties with their efforts to influence the broader organizational change. They undertook missions with renewed purpose, striving to demonstrate that a collaborative approach could yield positive results without compromising the timeline's integrity. Each successful intervention served as a testament to their philosophy, gradually swaying the opinions of their colleagues. However, not everyone was receptive to the idea of reform. A faction within the Time Watchers, led by a stern and uncompromising agent named Cassandra Reed, viewed Lien and Evelyn's actions as a threat to the organization's authority and the timeline's stability. Reed believed that the centralized control was essential for maintaining order and that any deviation could lead to catastrophic outcomes. Reed began to actively undermine Hale's efforts, questioning the feasibility and safety of a partnership-based approach. She argued that Lien and Evelyn's missions, though successful, were isolated incidents that did not justify a fundamental shift in the organization's protocols. Her influence within the council grew, and tensions escalated as the debate intensified. One evening, as Lien and Evelyn prepared for a critical mission in 2001 aimed at preventing a major environmental disaster, they received an urgent summons from Hale. The meeting was to take place at the agency's central hub, a place rarely accessed by external personnel. Sensing the gravity of the situation, they arrived promptly, finding Hale waiting for them with a serious expression. "Lien, Evelyn," Hale began, his voice tinged with concern. "The Council has reached a decision regarding our proposed partnership model." Evelyn exchanged a worried glance with Lien. "What's the outcome?" Hale took a deep breath, choosing his words carefully. "The majority of the Council has expressed reservations about fully embracing the partnership approach. However, your track record and the undeniable benefits of your missions have persuaded them to grant a provisional status. This means you can continue your work with increased autonomy, but under closer supervision and periodic evaluations." Lien felt a surge of frustration. Provisional status feels like a step backward. We need full collaboration to truly make a difference. Hale nodded sympathetically. "I understand your frustration, but it's a compromise. The Council is still divided, and Cassandra Reed remains a vocal opponent. For now, we must work within these constraints and prove the efficacy of our approach through continued success." Evelyn sighed, the weight of the situation pressing down on her. "We'll make the most of it. Our mission in 2001 is crucial. If we can prevent that disaster, it might help sway more Council members in our favor." With the meeting concluded, Lien and Evelyn set about preparing for their next mission. The target was a devastating flood predicted to strike a major metropolitan area in 2001, threatening countless lives and causing widespread environmental damage. Their goal was not only to mitigate the immediate threat but also to implement sustainable infrastructure that would prevent future occurrences. Activating the temporal harmonizer, they stepped into the portal, feeling the familiar pull as they were transported to the early 21st century. Arriving in the affected city, they quickly assessed the situation, identifying key areas where their intervention could make the most impact. Coordinating with local authorities and engineers, they introduced advanced flood prevention systems and community-based resilience programs, ensuring that the infrastructure improvements were both effective and sustainable. Their actions were meticulous, leaving no trace of their involvement beyond the enhanced systems that would protect the city from future disasters. As they returned to their own time, they monitored the timeline closely, anxiously awaiting confirmation that their mission had been successful. Weeks later, reports confirmed that the flood had been significantly mitigated, saving thousands of lives and preserving vital ecosystems. The successful intervention bolstered their provisional status, providing further evidence that their approach could yield positive outcomes without destabilizing the timeline. Meanwhile, tensions within the Time Watchers continued to escalate. Cassandra Reed, determined to maintain the organization's traditional methods, began to orchestrate efforts to discredit Lien and Evelyn. She presented evidence of their provisional status and highlighted the potential risks of their autonomous missions, rallying support among the more conservative members of the council. Reed's actions created a rift within the organization, pitting those who supported a more collaborative approach against those who favored strict centralized control. The conflict reached a boiling point during a high-stakes council meeting, where the future of Lien and Evelyn's partnership was to be decided once and for all. As the council gathered in the Grand Assembly Hall, the atmosphere was charged with tension. Representatives from both factions took their seats, the room divided by opposing viewpoints. Lien and Evelyn stood at the front, prepared to defend their position and advocate for the continued collaboration. The meeting began with Reed's impassioned speech, outlining the dangers of their partnership model and the potential for catastrophic disruptions if individuals were granted too much autonomy. She argued that the Time Watchers' established protocols were the only safeguard against temporal chaos, and that any deviation from these protocols could undermine the organization's mission. Opposing her were Hale and a growing contingent of council members who had witnessed the tangible benefits of Lien and Evelyn's interventions. They presented data and case studies demonstrating how their missions had positively influenced the timeline without causing major disruptions. Hale emphasized the need for adaptability and evolution within the organization, arguing that a more flexible approach could enhance the Time Watchers' effectiveness in an ever-changing world. As the debate raged on, Lien took the floor, his voice clear and resolute. "We're not here to undermine the Time Watchers or disrupt the timeline. We're here to offer a new way, one that respects the principles of temporal stability while embracing the potential for positive change. Our missions have proven that it's possible to make meaningful interventions without causing chaos. We believe that a formalized partnership, based on mutual trust and shared objectives, is the path forward." Evelyn followed, her voice equally compelling. "The world is evolving, and so must our methods. By working together, we can address the complex challenges humanity faces, ensuring a future that is both stable and prosperous. Restricting our efforts to rigid protocols limits our potential and hinders our ability to respond to emerging threats effectively." Reed responded with unwavering conviction. "Idealistic sentiments won't save us. The timeline is a delicate fabric, and only through strict control can we prevent it from unraveling. Your partnership model introduces variables that could have unforeseen consequences, jeopardizing everything we've worked to protect." The room fell silent as the council deliberated, the outcome hanging in the balance. After what felt like an eternity, the lead council member stood, addressing both factions. "This council recognizes the merits of both perspectives. While Reed raises valid concerns about maintaining stability, the success of Lien and Evelyn's missions cannot be ignored. It is clear that a balance must be struck, one that allows for controlled autonomy while ensuring that the integrity of the timeline is upheld." A murmur of agreement rippled through the room as the council reached a consensus. "Therefore, it is decided that Lien and Evelyn will continue their partnership under a new framework. This framework will include enhanced oversight, regular reporting, and collaboration with the Time Watchers' Central Intelligence. Their missions will be closely monitored to ensure alignment with our overarching objectives." Reed, though visibly disappointed, nodded in acknowledgement. "Very well. I hope this arrangement proves to be as effective as you claim." With the decision made, Lien and Evelyn felt a sense of cautious optimism. The council's endorsement of their partnership signaled a shift within the Time Watchers, one that could pave the way for more meaningful and impactful interventions. However, they remained aware of the challenges that lay ahead, knowing that maintaining this balance would require unwavering dedication and vigilance. Their next mission was particularly sensitive, addressing a burgeoning technological crisis in 2025. A powerful artificial intelligence had gained autonomy, posing a significant threat to global security and human autonomy. The Time Watchers had identified this event as a critical point where intervention was necessary to prevent a potential future dominated by machine intelligence. Armed with the enhanced support and resources provided by the formal partnership, Lien and Evelyn approached the mission with renewed confidence. They meticulously planned their intervention, collaborating with Time Watchers' Central Intelligence to gather comprehensive data and develop a strategic approach. Their goal was not only to neutralize the immediate threat but also to ensure that future technological advancements remained aligned with human values and ethical standards. As they activated the temporal harmonizer and stepped through the portal, they felt the familiar surge of energy transporting them to the heart of the technological crisis. Arriving in the midst of a bustling tech hub, they quickly identified the key players and the AI's central node. Their mission required a delicate balance of direct action and subtle influence, ensuring that the AI's development was halted without causing widespread panic or disruption. Working alongside local experts and utilizing advanced temporal technology, Lien and Evelyn implemented their plan. They introduced safeguards and ethical guidelines into the AI's programming, preventing it from gaining unrestricted autonomy. Simultaneously, they fostered a collaborative environment among the developers, encouraging a focus on ethical AI research and development. Their intervention was executed flawlessly, and upon returning to their own time, they monitored the timeline closely. Reports indicated that the AI crisis had been effectively mitigated, with ethical AI development becoming the norm and leading to advancements that benefited humanity without compromising autonomy or security. The mission's success further solidified their belief in the efficacy of their partnership with the Time Watchers. As they continued their work, Lien and Evelyn became key figures within the temporal agency, their expertise and dedication earning them respect and admiration from their peers. They mentored new chrono weavers, sharing their knowledge and experiences to cultivate a new generation of time travelers committed to ethical and impactful interventions. However, despite their successes, Reed remained a formidable opponent, her unwavering stance against the partnership serving as a constant reminder of the internal conflicts within the Time Watchers. She continued to advocate for strict adherence to traditional protocols, challenging the Council's decisions and questioning the long-term implications of the partnership model. One evening, as Lien and Evelyn reviewed their latest mission reports, they received an urgent communication from Hale. The message was terse: emergency meeting. Immediate attention required. Arriving at the central hub, they found Hale in a state of agitation. "Something's gone terribly wrong," he announced, his voice strained. "A critical intervention has gone off the rails, and the timeline is experiencing significant distortions. We need your expertise to contain the situation." Without hesitation, Lien and Evelyn sprang into action, coordinating with Time Watchers agents to assess and mitigate the crisis. The intervention in question had involved preventing a minor political scandal in 2030, aimed at fostering greater transparency and accountability in government. However, unforeseen consequences had led to widespread social unrest and economic instability, triggering temporal distortions that threatened to unravel the timeline. Working alongside Hale and a team of experienced agents, Lien and Evelyn devised a strategy to stabilize the timeline. They identified the root causes of the disruptions and implemented corrective measures, carefully balancing their actions to restore equilibrium without exacerbating the situation. The process was arduous, requiring precise coordination and unwavering focus. As they navigated the complexities of the crisis, Reed seized the opportunity to further her agenda. She accused Lien and Evelyn of incompetence and reckless intervention, using the crisis as evidence that their partnership was inherently flawed. Her rhetoric resonated with a faction of the Council, deepening the existing divide and casting doubt on the efficacy of the partnership model. Despite the mounting challenges, Lien and Evelyn remained resolute. Their dedication to preserving the timeline and fostering positive change guided their actions, even in the face of adversity. Through their combined efforts, they successfully stabilized the timeline, mitigating the distortions and restoring balance. The crisis was averted, but the damage to the organization's unity was palpable. In the aftermath, Hale addressed the Council once more, acknowledging the success of the mission while recognizing the internal conflicts that had arisen. The recent crisis highlights the complexities of our work and the need for continued collaboration and adaptation. Lien and Evelyn have demonstrated their commitment and capability, and we must learn from both our successes and our setbacks. Reed, undeterred, continued to push against the partnership model, her influence growing as more council members sided with her perspective. The organization teetered on the brink of a major shift, with the future of the partnership hanging in the balance. Amidst the turmoil, Lien and Evelyn reflected on their journey. They had faced countless challenges, navigated complex moral dilemmas, and forged a path that balanced their desire for meaningful change with the necessity of maintaining temporal stability. Their bond had only strengthened through adversity, and their commitment to their mission remained unshaken. Determined to secure the future of their partnership, they proposed a new initiative to the Council: the establishment of a dedicated research division focused on ethical temporal interventions. This division would combine the strengths of the Time Watcher's centralized knowledge with the flexibility and innovation of independent chrono-weavers, fostering a collaborative environment where both perspectives could thrive. The proposal was met with mixed reactions. Some council members, inspired by the successes of Lien and Evelyn's missions, supported the initiative as a means of enhancing the organization's adaptability and effectiveness. Others, aligned with Reed's conservative stance, viewed it as a potential threat to the established order and a precursor to further disruptions. As the debate raged on, Hale stood once more in support of the initiative, advocating for its potential to bridge the gap between centralized control and individual autonomy. We've seen firsthand the benefits of a collaborative approach. By integrating independent expertise with our established protocols, we can create a more resilient and adaptable organization, better equipped to handle the complexities of the timeline. Reed countered fiercely, her voice rising above the cacophony of dissent. This initiative opens the door to unchecked interventions and potential chaos. We cannot afford to compromise the integrity of the timeline for the sake of experimentation. The Council's decision ultimately hinged on a vote, the outcome uncertain as the room waited in tense anticipation. Lien and Evelyn watched with bated breath, understanding that the future of their partnership, and perhaps the very nature of the Time Watchers, depended on the Council's judgment. When the votes were tallied, the majority favored the establishment of the dedicated research division, recognizing the value of a more integrated and collaborative approach. Reed, though disappointed, accepted the outcome, her opposition now a vocal minority within the organization. With the decision made, Lien and Evelyn felt a renewed sense of purpose. The creation of the research division marked a new era for the Time Watchers, one that embraced both centralized oversight and independent initiative. They were appointed as leaders of the division, tasked with guiding its development and ensuring that their missions continue to align with the organization's core objectives. Their first project under the new framework focused on enhancing the ethical guidelines for temporal interventions, incorporating input from diverse perspectives to create a comprehensive and adaptable set of protocols. They worked tirelessly, fostering a culture of collaboration and mutual respect within the division, encouraging chrono-weavers to share their insights and expertise while maintaining accountability and oversight. As the division grew, so did their influence within the Time Watchers. Their balanced approach demonstrated the potential for meaningful change without compromising the timeline's integrity, earning them respect and support from even the most skeptical members. Reed, witnessing the success of the initiative, began to soften her stance, recognizing the benefits of a more flexible and collaborative approach. However, their journey was far from over. As they delved deeper into the complexities of temporal interventions, they encountered new challenges that tested their resolve and ingenuity. Unforeseen anomalies, rogue time travelers, and internal power struggles threatened to destabilize their efforts, requiring them to adapt and evolve continuously. One such challenge arose when a rogue time traveler, known only as the Anomaly, began making unauthorized interventions with devastating consequences. The Anomaly's actions caused significant distortions in multiple timelines, threatening to unravel the delicate balance that Lien and Evelyn had worked so hard to maintain. The Time Watchers struggled to contain the chaos, their resources stretched thin as they battled the increasingly erratic distortions. Lien and Evelyn were tasked with locating and neutralizing the Anomaly, a mission that required all their skills and ingenuity. They activated the temporal harmonizer, stepping through the portal to the chaotic nexus of timelines affected by the anomaly's interventions. Arriving in a fractured reality, they navigated through shifting landscapes and overlapping time periods, their every step fraught with danger and uncertainty. As they pursued the anomaly, they discovered that the rogue traveler was not acting alone. A faction within the Time Watchers, disillusioned by the organization's rigid control and inspired by Lien and Evelyn's collaborative approach, had allied themselves with the anomaly, seeking to overthrow the established order and impose their own vision for the future. The confrontation was inevitable. In the heart of a collapsing timeline, Lien and Evelyn faced the anomaly and the dissenting faction, a battle that transcended the boundaries of time and space. The struggle was intense, with temporal energies clashing and timelines bending under the strain of their conflict. Through sheer determination and strategic brilliance, Lien and Evelyn managed to outmaneuver their opponents, neutralizing the anomaly and restoring stability to the affected timelines. The aftermath of the confrontation brought significant changes to the Time Watchers. The faction aligned with the anomaly was disbanded, their members either reintegrated into the organization or removed from positions of influence. The successful containment of the crisis reinforced the need for a balanced and collaborative approach, solidifying the legitimacy of Lien and Evelyn's leadership within the research division. As they returned to their own time, Lien and Evelyn reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point. They had navigated the complexities of time travel, challenged the very foundations of the Time Watchers, and forged a path that balanced control with autonomy. Their partnership had endured countless trials, emerging stronger and more resilient with each challenge. Their final mission under the formal partnership was a culmination of their efforts to harmonize collaboration with temporal stability. They were tasked with preventing a global pandemic in the early 21st century, a crisis that threatened to decimate populations and cripple economies. Drawing upon their extensive experience and the support of the research division, they devised a comprehensive strategy to contain the outbreak, implement effective medical interventions, and bolster public health infrastructure. Activating the temporal harmonizer, they stepped into the portal, arriving in a world on the brink of disaster. The city they targeted was overwhelmed by chaos, the pandemic spreading rapidly and resources dwindling. Lien and Evelyn worked alongside medical professionals, public health officials, and local leaders, orchestrating a coordinated response that combined immediate interventions with long-term strategies for resilience. Their actions were swift and decisive, implementing advanced medical treatments, establishing efficient distribution systems, and promoting public awareness campaigns. They introduced innovative technologies and sustainable practices that not only addressed the immediate crisis but also strengthened the city's capacity to handle future challenges. Their mission was a resounding success, averting the pandemic's worst effects and fostering a culture of preparedness and solidarity. As they returned to their own time, the positive impact of their mission was evident. The world had emerged stronger and more unified, with enhanced public health systems and a renewed commitment to global cooperation. Their efforts had not only preserved the timeline but also ushered in an era of unprecedented resilience and progress. In the quiet moments after their mission, Lien and Evelyn stood together, gazing out over the city skyline. The journey they had undertaken had transformed them, shaping their perspectives and deepening their commitment to their mission. They had become true stewards of history, balancing the delicate dance between change and stability, freedom and control. Their partnership had proven that meaningful, positive change was possible within the constraints of the timeline, and that collaboration and adaptability were key to navigating the complexities of time travel. As leaders of the research division, they continued to guide the Time Watchers towards a future that honored both temporal integrity and the potential for human progress. Yet, even as they celebrated their successes, they remained vigilant, aware that the challenges of maintaining temporal stability were ever present. The lessons they had learned and the bonds they had forged would continue to guide them as they faced the unknowns of the future, ever watchful as true guardians of history's intricate tapestry. In the end, Lien and Evelyn embodied the essence of the Time Watchers' mission, balancing the preservation of history with the pursuit of progress, ensuring that humanity's journey through time remained both stable and full of potential. Their story was a testament to the power of collaboration, the importance of ethical intervention, and the enduring quest to safeguard the delicate fabric of time. Lien and Evelyn stood on the rooftop of the temporal agency's central hub, gazing out over the city that had become a symbol of their success and resilience. The skyline was a testament to human ingenuity, dotted with gleaming skyscrapers and innovative architectural marvels that had emerged from their interventions. The air was crisp, carrying the sounds of a thriving metropolis below, a stark contrast to the chaos they had once battled to restore. Their latest mission had been a defining moment, showcasing the power of their collaborative approach and the strength of their leadership within the research division. Preventing the global pandemic in 2025 had not only saved countless lives but had also reinforced the importance of their work in maintaining a stable and prosperous timeline. As they reflected on their journey, they knew that their efforts had far-reaching implications, shaping the course of history in ways that balanced progress with preservation. However, beneath the surface of their achievements, a new challenge was emerging, one that threatened to test the very foundations of their partnership and the integrity of the Time Watchers. Reports had begun to surface of unexplained temporal anomalies occurring in remote regions around the globe. These disturbances were unlike anything the Time Watchers had encountered before, exhibiting a complexity that suggested a deliberate manipulation of the timeline rather than random fluctuations or isolated incidents. Lien and Evelyn were tasked with investigating these anomalies, their expertise and experience making them the ideal candidates for the mission. As they prepared for their departure, they reviewed the data and theories surrounding the disturbances. The patterns were intricate, hinting at a coordinated effort to alter key historical events on a global scale. It was clear that this was the work of a highly skilled and organized entity, one that posed a significant threat to the stability they had worked so hard to maintain. Activating the temporal harmonizer, they stepped through the portal, feeling the familiar surge of energy as they were transported to the heart of the first anomaly. Arriving in a secluded area of the Amazon rainforest, they found themselves amidst a landscape that seemed untouched by time yet subtly altered in ways that defied explanation. The flora and fauna bore marks of unnatural evolution, and the air shimmered with a faint temporal energy that resonated with the anomalies they had detected. As they navigated the altered environment, they encountered remnants of historical events that had been twisted and distorted. An ancient civilization that had never existed in their timeline stood before them, their architecture and culture a perplexing blend of known and unknown elements. It was evident that someone, or something, was actively reshaping history, introducing elements that did not belong and disrupting the natural flow of time. Their investigation led them to an underground facility, hidden beneath the dense canopy of the rainforest. The entrance was guarded by advanced security systems and temporal barriers, indicating the presence of a formidable adversary. Lien and Evelyn worked in unison, utilizing their combined skills and the resources provided by the research division to bypass the defenses. As they delved deeper into the facility, they uncovered evidence of sophisticated temporal technology, far beyond what the Time Watchers had developed. In the heart of the facility, they discovered a chamber pulsating with raw temporal energy. At its center stood a figure cloaked in shadows, manipulating the very fabric of time with a precision that was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The figure turned, revealing a face that bore the scars of countless temporal battles, a former Time Watcher who had become disillusioned with the organization's methods and sought to reshape history according to their own vision. "Welcome, Lien, Evelyn," the figure intoned, their voice echoing with authority. "I've been expecting you." Lien stepped forward, his stance firm. "Who are you, and what do you intend to do with the timeline?" The rogue Time Watcher, known only as Orion, smiled coldly. "I am Orion, once a guardian of history, now its architect. The Time Watchers have long maintained a rigid control over the timeline, stifling the very essence of human potential. It's time for a new order, one where history evolves naturally, without the constraints of centralized oversight." Evelyn narrowed her eyes, her mind racing to comprehend Orion's motivations. "You're jeopardizing the stability we've worked so hard to maintain. Your actions could lead to chaos and the very destruction you claim to prevent." Orion's expression hardened. "Stability without progress is stagnation. Humanity needs the freedom to shape its destiny, to learn from its mistakes and grow. The Time Watchers have become too conservative, too afraid to embrace change. I aim to liberate history from their oppressive control, allowing it to self-evolve in a way that fosters true advancement. A tense silence filled the chamber as the two sides faced off, the very air charged with temporal energy. Lien and Evelyn knew that confronting Orion would require more than just force. It would demand a strategic approach to neutralize the threat without causing further disruptions to the timeline. "Your vision is flawed," Lien began, his voice steady. "You underestimate the complexities of history and the unintended consequences of unchecked change. The Time Watchers may be conservative, but our role is to prevent catastrophic alterations that could undo centuries of progress." Orion laughed, a sound devoid of humor. "Progress achieved through fear and control is not true progress. Humanity deserves the chance to thrive on its own terms, to make choices without the shadow of a centralized authority dictating its path." Evelyn stepped forward, her eyes meeting Orion's with unwavering resolve. "There must be a balance, Orion. Complete autonomy without oversight can lead to the very chaos you seek to avoid. We can work together to find a middle ground where history can evolve naturally while maintaining stability and preventing catastrophic events." Orion hesitated, the weight of her words evident in his expression. "Perhaps there is merit in your approach, Evelyn. But my actions have already set certain events in motion. The timeline is now altered beyond my initial plan, and containment is proving difficult." Lien exchanged a glance with Evelyn, understanding the gravity of the situation. "We can help you, Orion. Let us work together to stabilize the anomalies and guide the timeline towards a path that honors both stability and progress." Orion considered their offer, the conflict within him palpable. The desire for true progress warred with the recognition of the potential dangers posed by unbridled temporal manipulation. After a moment of intense deliberation, he nodded slowly. "Very well. But this collaboration must be based on mutual respect and a shared vision for the future." With the fragile alliance forged, Lien, Evelyn, and Orion worked together to stabilize the temporal anomalies plaguing the rainforest facility. Combining their expertise and leveraging the advanced technology at their disposal, they meticulously corrected the distortions, ensuring that history remained intact while allowing for natural evolution and progress. As the last of the anomalies were resolved, the chamber's pulsating energy subsided, and a sense of calm settled over the facility. Orion extended his hand, a gesture of newfound trust and collaboration. "Thank you, Lien and Evelyn. Together, we can ensure that history evolves in a way that benefits humanity without succumbing to chaos." Lien shook his hand firmly. "We're in this together, Orion. Let's work towards a future where history is both preserved and allowed to flourish." Evelyn smiled, her eyes reflecting a sense of hope and determination. "This is just the beginning. With our combined efforts, we can create a harmonious balance between stability and progress, ensuring that humanity's journey through time is both resilient and full of potential." Returning to their own time, the successful collaboration with Orion marked a pivotal moment for the Time Watchers. The integration of Orion's progressive vision with the organization's established protocols fostered a new era of balanced temporal management. The research division flourished, embracing a holistic approach that valued both preservation and innovation. Under Lien and Evelyn's leadership, the Time Watchers evolved into a more adaptable and responsive organization. Their missions continued to address critical points in history, each one carefully crafted to enhance human potential while safeguarding against destabilizing changes. The partnership with Orion introduced fresh perspectives and innovative strategies, enriching the organization's capabilities and reinforcing their commitment to ethical temporal interventions. However, the journey was not without its challenges. The delicate balance they maintained required constant vigilance and adaptability. New threats emerged, each one demanding a unique approach and unwavering dedication. From thwarting the rise of extremist movements to fostering advancements in science and technology, Lien, Evelyn, and Orion navigated the complexities of time with a shared purpose and unwavering resolve. One such challenge arose when a previously unknown temporal phenomenon, dubbed the chronovortex, began to distort the fabric of time across multiple dimensions. The chronovortex created unstable pockets where time flowed unpredictably, threatening to unravel entire epochs and erase significant historical events. The Time Watchers recognized the severity of the situation and mobilized their resources to contain the phenomenon. Lien, Evelyn, and Orion led the mission to address the chronovortex, understanding that its containment was crucial to preserving the integrity of the timeline. Utilizing their combined knowledge and the advanced technologies developed by the research division, they devised a plan to stabilize the chronovortex and prevent it from causing irreparable damage. Activating the temporal harmonizer, they stepped into the heart of the vortex, a swirling maelstrom of temporal energy that defied conventional understanding. The environment around them was a chaotic blend of past, present, and future, with historical figures and events overlapping in a disorienting display. The very essence of time seemed to be in flux, resisting their attempts to impose order. As they navigated the tumultuous landscape, they encountered manifestations of temporal anomalies, specters of altered histories and echoes of unfulfilled potentials. Each step forward required careful calculation and unwavering focus, as the slightest misstep could plunge them into an uncontrollable spiral of time distortions. In the center of the vortex, they discovered the source of the instability, a convergence point where multiple timelines intersected, creating a nexus of conflicting temporal energies. To stabilize the chronovortex, they needed to harmonize these divergent timelines, aligning them into a cohesive and stable flow of time. Working in unison, they employed a combination of temporal synchronization and energy modulation, channeling the vortex's raw energy into a harmonious balance. Orion utilized his advanced temporal manipulation techniques, drawing upon his experience and the lessons learned from his defection. Lien and Evelyn provided the strategic oversight and technical expertise necessary to guide the process, ensuring that the synchronization was precise and effective. The operation was intense and draining, pushing their abilities to the limit as they fought against the chaotic forces of the vortex. Sweat dripped from their brows, their muscles strained under the effort, but their determination never wavered. With a final surge of energy, they achieved the delicate balance needed to stabilize the chronovortex, its swirling chaos gradually subsiding into a calm and orderly flow of time. Exhausted but triumphant, they watched as the vortex dissolved, leaving behind a stable and harmonious timeline. The chronovortex had been contained, its threat neutralized by their combined efforts and unwavering dedication. The mission was a resounding success, further solidifying their reputation as the true stewards of history's intricate tapestry. As they returned to the temporal agency, they were greeted with accolades and gratitude from their colleagues. The successful containment of the chronovortex was hailed as a testament to the power of collaboration and the effectiveness of their balanced approach. The research division thrived, with new initiatives and projects aimed at enhancing their capabilities and expanding their understanding of temporal dynamics. In the aftermath of the mission, Lien and Evelyn took a moment to reflect on their journey. They had faced countless challenges, navigated complex moral dilemmas, and forged alliances that transcended the boundaries of time. Their partnership had evolved into a beacon of hope and progress within the Time Watchers, inspiring a new generation of chronoweavers committed to ethical and impactful interventions. Yet, as they looked to the future, they remained aware of the ever-present challenges that awaited them. The delicate balance between preservation and progress required constant vigilance and adaptability, as new threats and opportunities emerged with each passing moment. Their journey was a continuous quest, one that demanded resilience, ingenuity, and an unwavering commitment to safeguarding the timeline's integrity. One evening, as they stood once more on the rooftop, watching the city lights twinkle beneath them, Lien turned to Evelyn with a thoughtful expression. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" Evelyn nodded, her eyes reflecting the cityscape before her. "Yes, we have. But there's still so much more to do. The timeline is vast and complex, and our work is never truly finished." Orion joined them, his presence a symbol of their enduring collaboration. "Our mission is a never-ending journey, one that requires us to adapt and grow with each challenge we face. Together, we can ensure that history remains both preserved and allowed to evolve, creating a future that honors the past and embraces the potential of tomorrow. Lien smiled, feeling a sense of fulfillment and purpose. Here's to the future, then. To the countless moments we've yet to protect and the endless possibilities that lie ahead. Evelyn raised an imaginary glass in a toast. To balance, collaboration, and the enduring spirit of humanity. Orion echoed the sentiment with a nod. To history's guardians and the ever-evolving tapestry of time. As the three stood together, the city below them thrummed with life and progress, a living testament to their unwavering dedication and the delicate harmony they had forged between control and freedom. The journey of Lien, Evelyn, and Orion had not only reshaped their own lives but had also left an indelible mark on the fabric of history, ensuring that humanity's journey through time remained both resilient and full of potential. Their story was far from over, but as they gazed into the horizon, they knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, true stewards of history, balancing the preservation of the past with the promise of the future, and of history's watchers.